The Russian army declared control over the country of Dofrisch in Donetsk province. An American warns the Ukrainian army of the attack on Zubrugia, as Wagner's detachments advance deep into Bakhmut and fight the entrances in the heart of the city. Zelensky's advisor confirms the existence of a hidden struggle for power in Ukraine that will be the cause of its demise. The U.S. Reuters news agency reported, quoting an official in the Biden administration, that America had ordered the commanders in the Ukrainian army not to launch a counterattack at present. What is meant here is the attack on Zubrugia in the south. It appears that the recent Russian victories have put great pressure on the Zelensky regime, and it is trying to get out of the impasse by launching an attack in the area where it believes it is superior. If the Russian army managed to repel the attack, especially after Russia completed building the network of defensive lines in Zubrugia, it would enable it to defend against the large-scale Ukrainian attack with the least number of forces, but in the event of losing Ukraine, it will be completely open for the Russian army to advance with ease and comfort. Orders were given not to attack in Zubrugia unless two orders were completed. The first, the completion of Western arms supplies that have been approved, including new GLSB missiles, British Storm Shadow cruise missiles, and Western armored vehicles and tanks. And huge equipment enough to build an entire European army by NATO standards. Second, the completion of the training of the Ukrainian forces that will implement the attack plan in Zubrugia on tasks and mastering the use of weapons and training on the plan. Rehearsals began at Fort Sill and in Oklahoma. America will only give the green light when they are confident that the attack will be successful, but Zelensky is not satisfied with the current situation, because Russia is advancing every day in the Donbass, and the attack on Zubrugia began to make progress, and even Bakhmut refused to withdraw from it. But the American officials confirmed that the Russians will eventually expel them by force and they will suffer the largest amount of losses in soldiers and equipment. He should withdraw and preserve his forces and weapons, but Zelensky and army leaders appear who do not want to withdraw. Russian forces managed to take control of the town of Krasnopoli. In the area between Soledar and Bakhmut, British intelligence confirmed that there were additional numbers of Wagner's forces that had arrived in Ukraine. And here is the approval of the Russian government to include 25,000 additional fighters to Wagner to control Krasnopoli, and they have bypassed it and are now attacking in more than one direction. They may join forces participating in the storming of Bakhmut. Wagner's forces managed to advance deep into Bakhmut, and its leader confirmed that it would liberate Bakhmut, as happened in Soledar, although Bakhmut is much more difficult than Soledar, and it has more than 40 battalions of the Ukrainian army, a large number of Foreign Legion forces and 2,500 fighters from the Azov forces. It has a greater number of tunnels underground and strong defensive lines which was built under the guidance of Western experts. Wagner's progress in Bakhmut will not be rapid in the face of this situation unless there is a collapse of the Western and Ukrainian forces. Russia wants to eliminate the forces stationed in Bakhmut so that they are not withdrawn and transferred to any other place or training camp to carry out a new attack against the Russian army. The battles in Bakhmut today were characterized that the fighting at very close distances after Wagner's forces began to advance in the city and the Ukrainian soldiers fighting from the windows of houses. The Russian army allowed the Ukrainian army to transport the dead in 6 batches of 20 trucks as a humanitarian matter. As for the Zaporizhia district, the Americans asked Ukraine not to attack it before they received full training and a supply of weapons. It seems that the Russian army will control it completely before completing their training because the rate of progress of the Russian army in Zaporizhia during the last few days reveals that the conditions of the Ukrainian army there are miserable. The Russian army managed to break the first defensive line set up by the Ukrainian army in the province of Zaporizhia, which includes 3 main cities, Giliaipol, Kamenskoye, and Orekhov, and the Russian advance was along the entire front line in Zaporizhia. The fighting moved to the heart of Giliaipol. From 2 main axes, and if they are controlled, the Russian army will storm Zaporizhia, the capital itself, the 2 gates, Kamenskoye and Orekhov. The Russian army surrounded Orekhov after it took control of 6 villages in its vicinity yesterday, and either storm them or complete the 4th side and besieges it and then storms it. The Chechen Special Division, the Ali al-Sheikh Division, fights alongside the Russian army and carries out strong penetration operations, and its roles appeared in the recent penetration operations in Zaporizhia with remarkable speed and accuracy. As for the issue of the internal struggle for power and suspicions that the helicopter bombing was orchestrated, Zelensky's resigned advisor Alexei Arestovich said, as he posted a video on his channel. In it, he emphasized the fact that there is a hidden struggle for power in Ukraine. This conflict will be the reason for the imminent marriage and will accelerate the defeat of the Ukrainian army.